little cocaine before you start. Is that what that was about? What are you talking
Riding
about?
that train.
Yeah. If
Wait
you
a minute.
want to ride, ride the white horse. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. I'm your host, Alan Ulrich, the sober one, while my friend over there riding the white horse, Sean Williams tonight. How you doing tonight, Sean?
All good in my neighborhood, brother.
Yeah, I bet you are.
I cannot believe you've insinuated that I'm. Uh,
Do 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 dun dun do do do
if you wanna
dun.
get down,
Yeah, all right.
down, sit. Yeah. If
Man,
I had a.
we're not even Cowboys fans. Why are we singing cocaine stuff? I mean, it's like it's Randy Gregory's show. What the hell?
Oh, anyway. On that note, I think we better pay the bills before we get disconnected. We want to thank Fan First Productions for sponsoring our show. As always, we want to invite you guys to subscribe to our show on iTunes and on YouTube. Thank you all so much for being a part of our show tonight and every time that we do this. Here lately, every time we come on, we're welcoming a better and better and better guest. And well, this week you're stuck with just the founders of the feast, so to speak. It's just Alan and I this week. And real quickly, I want to once again I want to say a very special thanks to Quinn Early. Such an outstanding, fantastic guest he was a week ago, and once we got off the air, I told you earlier, once we got off the air from the show last week, I remembered about half a dozen things that we didn't even touch on. We didn't even make reference to when he was on here with us a week ago. We're going to have to get Quinn back. And I'm really looking forward to that. But, interesting segue here going from one part of New Orleans Saints history to another. 12 years ago today, a very, very historic event in New Orleans Saints history, one that I wrote an article on as the defining moment of the New Orleans Saints franchise. You can find that on profootballspot.com archives. But I can write the article. It doesn't even remotely compare with having actually been there, as my esteemed colleague was. 12 years ago tonight, the New Orleans Saints and the Atlanta Falcons met in the Mercedes-Benz, the newly renovated and refurbished Mercedes-Benz Superdome, for what would hereafter and forevermore be referred to as Rebirth. The game where Steve Gleason, the No White Flags movement, was born.
Well, not quite the No White Flags movement, because that would happen once he was diagnosed with ALS. But where Steve Gleason made a name for himself.
Yes,
that's where the fans learned who he was, because he was a nondescript special teams backup safety under the Hazlitt years, and that was the play that defined Steve Gleason for Saints fans.
Yes.
Well, you want me to go ahead and tell you the story? What it was like that day?
Oh, you're on a roll, brother. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, okay, so in 2006, one thing I've always, when I grew up, my dad had season tickets, and when I went to college, I stopped. I didn't go to as many games anymore. I went to a few, but it was hard for me to get in town for Sunday games, and so I saw a few games, but not many. And then as the Jim Moore years kind of died out, and the Mike Ditka reign of error took over, there was less interest by anybody to go to Saints games. It was really dark and depressing, and we got a little uptick when Jim Hazlitt and Aaron Brooks and that the 2000 season came into being and stuff like that. But I I still wasn't going to games regularly. I was using this company tickets and for the company I work for. So I really wanted season tickets. So my wife said, you know what? We're doing better. We'll go ahead and get season tickets. And so the 2006 season, I went and bought my two, and they were in the I still call it the Loge area. Some of it's the club area now, but it's the middle section of the dome. Okay. And where my seats were in the corner end zone, right where the players came out. So, and right next to me was like a glass partition separating the club seats from the riffraff where I was sitting, and which was fine with me because I could sit in my seat. No one's going to pass in front of me. I never had to get up because somebody got out of the bathroom, get a beer, get a thing of nachos, whatever. I'm good. I'm right here. These are good seats. I got a good view right in the corner of that end zone. So we go to the game. Me and a guy I worked with. And, it had kind of a kickoff season kind of feel to it, but, people, you got to understand the mentality of Saints fans at that time. In 2005, before Katrina hit, you felt like this team is okay. It's not going to do much. We're never going to win. We're perennial losers. Don't get excited about these bums. Basically, that was the attitude of Saints fans. And it showed in the season ticket base. I think in 2005, they had 40,000 season tickets. Well, that's the waiting list today. But they have 40,000 total season tickets sold. So we get to the pregame festivities, and I happen to walk right by the NFL Films cameras, and I'm standing off to the side, but a camera is like right over here. Okay. And I am there. That's my point of view where they show that banner coming down and says, be a hero, be a saint. And they got that guy in the yellow shirt with the bad hair jumping up and down, all like, yeah, for the countdown. Yeah. That's my view. That was my view on the way to the dome. I was right there. So I get into the stadium, and I'll never forget this. Two things pop in my mind. First off, there's somebody right around us. I think he was behind us, but Morton Anderson's warming up and kicking field goals. And he, the way they do it is they start at 35 and start kicking all the way up to about 60 yards of kicking field goals. Well, Morton Anderson's hitting almost all of them. And the guy says, yeah, there's the game winner right there. Because the impression was we're going to lose this game. We're bums. We're not a good team. We're going to lose this game. And there was some girl near the end of our row, and there was probably about 10 seats total. And she's at the end, and she's there for the U2 concert. She's not there for the game. She's there because U2 is going to be playing. And I'll never forget, after they played that, all that stuff goes on, and then the lights come on. She's like, that's it? They're not going to play longer? I'm like, yeah, we're here for a football game. It's not a freaking U2 concert, U2, when they go on tour, you can go sit and watch 3 hours of U2. But this is not a U2 concert. So I just want to let y'all kind of set this up, because that was kind of the mindset of this game going into it. So with that in mind, when Gleason blocks that punt, and that was in our end zone, we could see that play happening right in front of us. You could see Gleason break through the hole that they made, and he comes right up the middle. And then, of course, I'm trying to remember the name of the defensive back now.
Deloach.
Yeah, Curtis Deloach recovers it, and he is on our side when he puts that football up like that. So, it was a spectacular moment, and it was like at that moment, you're like, bam, this is a serious football game. This is an incredible feeling in this dome, this energy that, this team may actually mean something to us. And it built from there, because after that play, of course, is the Superdome special, the reverse from Reggie Bush to uh, Devery Henderson for the touchdown, then the block field goal to Morton Anderson. You just had that energy all night that this team was going to play above its head. And from that point on, because every game I went to after that point, it was never the same. There was never the guy in behind me going, "Yeah, there's the game winner, same old Saints." There was never that girl who was there for the U2 concert. People who never watch football or never really watched Saints football, I should really say, were there to soak in the moment because there was so much work that they knew that had to be done in the city that for 3 hours every Sunday or Monday or whatever, that feeling of this is where I recharge my batteries. This is where I get that positive vibe. Reggie Bush returning that punt for a touchdown against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. People kind of down Reggie, but you can't. To me, I could never down Reggie because of what that season meant. What Reggie Bush meant to the team, what Drew Brees meant to that team. Ralph Marlboro called it one time the beginning of the golden age of Saints football, that block punt. And I have to agree with him because that entire season, even when you lost, it wasn't the same old Saints anymore. That was gone. That was history. It didn't matter what else happened that season. This was not going to be the same old Saints because there was something different about this team that we had never experienced before. And, it began that night. So it was really an awesome feeling. And I was at that game, and I was at the game when Hartley kicks the field goal for to send us the Super Bowl. So I can tell you the difference between the volume and the block punt was louder because the kick by Hartley was more of a relief and shock. Whereas the block punt by Gleason was just unbridled joy. You've had shit your whole life, it felt like. And for 1 second, this play happened and you just let out so much joy. And it was so totally unexpected. The feeling, like my feeling that in that Minnesota game again, to go to the Super Bowl, this was our time. We're going. Somehow we're going to go, but we're going. But the Atlanta Falcons game was totally unexpected. So that's why the difference in the volume, at least from in my perspective. I mean, it was something. It really was. And I've got the program. I've got the white towels that we were all waving that night. It was a special moment. It really was. And it just, I'll never forget that. That's one of the greatest games I'd ever been to. As far as a football game, it wasn't a great game, but it was a great feeling. So it'll always be a special time. And I'm glad we've got a statue to commemorate that because it deserves it. It was that kind of moment.
I can remember I didn't get to see the game in person, obviously, because for those who aren't aware, I don't actually live in New Orleans. I live about 6 hours due north of New Orleans in West Monroe. So my opportunities to go and watch the Saints are very sparing, to say the least. I didn't get to see that game in person. I didn't get to see that game on TV, and to blow some people's mind, this was before the days of actually being able to catch a game, streaming it. So I was limited to my ability to actually be a part of this game to a radio broadcast. And for the Westwood One radio broadcast that they do, there's the full production value of a top notch radio broadcast, and the microphones that they use in that situation to record a live game. There's all sorts of mufflers and dampers and everything to minimize the crowd noise. And the one thing that stood out to me the most was the fact that on that radio broadcast, it was so loud when Gleason blocked that punt that it was about a 4 to 5 minute time frame there where you couldn't hear the announcers at all. All you could hear was the crowd. And, you know, not being from that region at that point in time, not really having a feel or a vibe for what was going on in that city at that point in time, it really didn't strike home to me so much then as it does now. Being able to look back with the benefit of hindsight at what that moment would mean going forward, what that moment meant at that point in time to a city, to a team, to a franchise, to a fan base. But looking back, the thing that sticks out to me the most in my mind from the radio broadcast that I got to listen to was just how loud it was in that Superdome. And it never fails. Every time I talk to someone new that was there that night or that even claimed to be there that night, because, you know, if the Superdome accommodated everybody that claimed to be a part of that night, it would have had to have almost been the Roman Coliseum, because everybody says that they were there and a part of it. No, I wasn't. I wish I was, but I wasn't.
I got my ticket saved in the program too. So yeah, so I can always prove I was there.
The first Saints game that I was ever able to be a part of was, I want to say, New Year's Day 2014. It was Cam Newton's rookie season, last game of the year. We weren't going to the Super Bowl. We weren't going to the playoffs. A little more than pride at stake that day. And that was the day that Darren Sproles set the combined yardage record, I believe. And the Saints, Breeze and the Saints, and there were like 12 to 15 either individual or team or NFL records that were set that day. I got to be there and be a part of that, and that was awesome because we skull drug the Panthers that day. Let me ask you this, Alan. It's been 12 years. Knowing what that meant to this team, to this fan base, to the city, so on and so forth, what the significance of it was then, what do you see as the significance of the rebirth game now to the New Orleans Saints franchise?
To me, it's a turning point in the history of the franchise, because from that point on, even when we were going 7-9, the same old Saints argument was lost forever. Because, and again, you know, and this is for people who, this generation, who really don't remember, you know, Mike Ditka's years were more or less stuff that happened when they were toddlers or children, or maybe they weren't even alive yet. They have very little memory of the Jim Mora years outside of what they have read, and they have no memory of the John Meekum years. Okay, they don't know what that's like at all. So they didn't deal with the years and years and years of frustration and heartbreak that you were a second-rate Mickey Mouse franchise. You were never going to win. You never got mentioned on. You were never on Howard Cosell's halftime highlights. You were never mentioned on ESPN. You know, Saints highlights. Okay, I'm gonna really date myself now. You know, in when they started doing highlight shows outside of Monday Night Football, Saints highlights would have been done by Robin Roberts instead of Chris Berman and Tom Jackson. You know, because those were the bad teams. Okay, that's not the exciting stuff. You know,
the only time Saints highlights got shown is when they were victimized by the powers that be of that time.
Well, I'll never forget there was a game.
Like when Flipper Anderson sets the single game.
That kind of stuff. You know,
when Joe Montana leads back a fourth quarter comeback against the Saints in the Superdome.
You saw Morton Anderson kick a field goal, and you got to watch somebody lead a last-minute drive against the Saints to beat them, or they make big plays against the Saints defense to beat them. That's pretty much what you saw in the 80s, except for the Dome Patrol years. But that's pretty much what you saw as Saints highlights. You know, other than that, pretend like the Saints didn't even exist. There was the NFL, and then there was the Saints. Okay? I mean, you know, it just think about Jacksonville a few years ago. How often they talk about Jacksonville, you know, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, before Tony Dungy got there, you know, they were a joke. So that game against the Falcons, our arch rival, our enemy, was just so important because from 1993, it was 94. From 94 to 2000, the Falcons beat the Saints 10 straight times. That's a horrible feeling. That's horrible. You don't want to live through that. I mean, that's not a rivalry. That's like LSU against Alabama. You know, Alabama owns LSU. So, you know, that's not a rivalry. So, you know, a rivalry is when you get revenge. And the way they used to beat us was always just a skull drag, you know, or they beat us on a last-second fluke play. But you never won. So, I mean, that's why that game's important. And, of course, fast forward to today, now you've got two good ball clubs. And now the rest of the NFL pays attention to this rivalry because – you know, I can't tell you how nauseous I get how NBC or ESPN or CBS promotes the game, Dallas against Philadelphia, or Dallas against the Giants, or the Eagles and the Giants, or Dallas and the Redskins. I mean, you know, the NFC East, that's where all the rivalries take place, or Bears-Packers. That's about it. You know, there are no other rivalries they promote because Chiefs-Raiders hasn't been good since the 70s. So you elevated that rivalry now to a national level because of that game. And the fact that both teams are good makes that a game that that networks want to show and people are going to want to watch. And what's the one game they go back to? They don't go back to the 62-7, thank God. They don't go back to the 62-7 beatdown the Falcons gave us in 1972. They don't go back to 78 and 79 with Big Ben and Grover Clemmer and Russell Erxlaben's, you know, mishandling the punt. They don't go to those games. They go to the block punt. For the networks and for the rest of the NFL, the rivalry starts with the 2006 rebirth game. And that's what's great. It's awesome because I don't have to look at Too Legit to Quit, Deion Sanders and Michael Haynes toasting our secondary in the playoffs. I don't have to look at the Dirty Bird with watching Dan Reeves try and do this kind of stupid thing. You know, I don't see any of that shit. It starts with 2006, the block punt, and that makes me happy.
I got to wonder, as an Atlanta Falcons coach, though, whenever whenever you don't convert on third down and the head coach goes, all right, punt team, there's got to be somebody on the Falcons sidelines going, oh, shit.
3 times is a charm. I tell you what. I got to give it to Steve Gleason. He trolls the best of them, with his never punt, and he posted this thing, never punt. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Every time the Falcons go to punt against the Saints, I do expect a block punt. I mean, it's going to happen. It's like sex with Kobe Bryant. It's going to happen. No matter how much you scream and try to deny it, it's going to happen. So, that's my politically incorrect joke for the night.
Okay, well, long as we got that out of the way.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there was Steve Gleason, then there was Marty, and then Okafor this week. Wonder who's going to be next.
Oh, it's going to be Taysom Hill. Guido Merkins 2.0. I mean, he's going to do something. And if it happens Thanksgiving night, that would be awesome. I mean,
I got to do this. My heartfelt sentiments. I do have to give props. First of all, to the Atlanta Falcons organization for the tribute that they paid to former Saints owner Tom Benson on their video replay board. Now, as
they couldn't spell rivalry,
as Alan's wife pointed out to the entire community today, rivalry is not spelled Rivlary.
I'll be honest with you, that wasn't the most illiterate moment, though, of the entire game. The most illiterate moment was when not once, but twice, Chris Carter said he conversated with somebody. I went, are you serious? Did you actually just say that word?
Man,
which isn't a word. Yeah.
Chris Carter, one of the first parts of the broadcast when one of those times that Ridley lit up the secondary, and he talked about the referees being out of position. I looked at Michelle. I said, well, Chris Carter won't be doing play-by-play anymore. He just burned some bridges there.
But he was right. But that's beside the point.
Yeah. You don't call out the officials on the network broadcast, brother.
Yeah.
But anyway,
he had a great point, though, because that's why they didn't call the play. Because, I mean, he couldn't call some of the penalties because the guy was out of position. So
I will give credit where it's due. I don't think that I've ever watched a game where Matt Ryan was as spot on as he was Sunday. He did absolutely everything that you could possibly expect a quarterback to do to try to win a ball game. He was fantastic. I still don't like him. I still think he looks like Napoleon Dynamite. But I got to give him credit. He played a hell of a game.
I didn't put this in my good, bad, and ugly, but I'll be honest with you. With a minute and some change and 3 timeouts, and the Saints score that touchdown, and the Falcons get the ball back, I'm like, and it's a tie ball game. I said, Ryan's going to throw that ball up for Julio Jones or Calvin Ridley, at least draw a pass interference, not to throw a touchdown pass. But they're going to do something to get in field goal range, and they're just going to run the clock out. Saints can't stop it, and they're going to kick the field goal and win the ball game. We're never going to make it to overtime. So I have to give it to the 12th man for the New Orleans Saints, Steve Sarkisian, for calling some of the worst plays I had ever seen. I was very happy with the play call he chose because it helped us tremendously to win that game.
Well, look, all things being equal, Steve Sarkisian was as much a benefit to us as PJ Williams was to the Atlanta
Yeah,
Falcons.
yeah, that was the Falcons' 12th man, PJ Williams. So I got to give him that too. But I mean,
Uh,
I really
you've got
was.
it is. I hate. I used when I was a fan and just a fan. I loved watching a shootout.
Mhm.
As 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 a supporter of this team, I cannot stand a shootout because you're always going to be at the mercy of who has the ball last. And I'll be honest with you, in all honesty, straight up, had we lost that coin toss, we would not have won that game.
Oh no, no, there's no way because he wasn't going to call the same stupid plays twice. There was no way. I mean, unless he was drinking again, there's no way he's calling the same kind of plays because it's a different kind of game. Um, Maybe we could have held him to a field goal, but I was so happy we won the toss. And yeah, that's what made that game exciting. That's what made that game fun. Because for people who were emotionally involved in that game, like, unlike me, who I think my neighbors thought I had Tourette syndrome because just these sudden profane words come screaming out of my mouth, and it's just, and then I'll be quiet for a while. Then the F bomb just comes out, because I'm just like, yeah, I can't repeat it here, but I mean, it was, it's, Josh, I'm sure said the same kind of stuff. Tony and the rest, when they're watching Carolina and a big play happens against them, they say the same things. I mean, there you go.
I try to stay even keel. The operative word there being try. I try to stay even.
I'm better in the stadium, actually. I behave myself in the stadium because I don't want to curse in front of kids if kids are there and that kind of stuff. I'll watch. But at home, only my dog has to hear it.
I sit here and they suck the very oxygen out of the room in the first drive and they go 3 and out, and I'm like, well, they have to make their adjustments. Now by the 5th drive, we've got like 1 field goal and 4 punts. I'm starting to get pissed now because we got Michael Thomas, we got Alvin Kamara, we got Drew Brees, and we got one of the most underrated offensive lines in the league. We need to be scoring points. God knows our defense is not going to stop anyone that breathes on them. And that brings me to my next point. Could you shed some light? I'm not going to say what's wrong with our defense, but why exactly is the defense that performed so well just 9-10 months ago, why it's looking the way that it is to the average fan these days?
Well, they got film on them now. And I hate to make it sound like that, but they have film on them now. So they sat there and broke down all 16 games and the playoff games, how this defense did and what they did well and what they did poorly, where the weak spots were, where to attack it. We do the same thing. I mean, every team does it. And it's not anything hard to figure out, but they sat there and examined Crawley. And what did Crawley do well? What did he do poorly? And you heard Chris Carter during the game, in fact, say, they like the matchup with Calvin Ridley on PJ Williams. They like that matchup, and that's where they were going for. And you look at that game, okay? You've got Lattimore and you've got a safety over the top working on against Jones, okay? So there's only 11 guys. You got one other safety who's going to play down low, not only to help stop the run, but also to take care of the tight end or Sanu. They've got to cover Sanu. So that leaves Ridley one-on-one with somebody because you're not going to put a linebacker with him. Okay, so even if we go to 5 defensive backs and 2 linebackers, you're going to at least put a cornerback and maybe a safety covering Sanu underneath so he doesn't kill you. You're taking your chance one-on-one, your cornerback versus a rookie wide receiver. And Ridley just took him to school. So where are the linebackers in this case? Well, that takes us to the front 4 of this Saints defensive line. The Saints defensive line in all 3 games has failed to dominate the opposing team's offensive line. In the Detroit game, when we got all those batted balls, we were dominating Detroit's offensive line. In a lot of the games where you saw the Saints defense really get a lot of pressure on the opposing offense, the Saints defensive line, their front 4, was dominating the opposing team's offensive line. That's not happening, not consistently enough. So what does Dennis Allen have to do to generate pressure? He has to generate pressure by sending linebackers in. So now we only got 2 linebackers because we're playing big nickel most of the game. So we're sending in, our 2 fastest linebackers. Well, our 2 fastest linebackers know what's going on because that's a problem we have right now with Anzalone. He apparently is not trusting reading his keys, and he's too slow to react, and plays are coming up on him, or he's out of position. He's making too many mistakes, so they are keeping him on the sideline. I don't know why not Patrick Robinson. I don't know why Craig Robinson is not playing defense. I don't know. But you've got Davis and you've got A.J. Klein out there right now, okay? Klein had a good game. I thought Klein played very well. Given his physical limitations, he read some plays and made some nice tackles. But when you start sending Klein and Davis in on blitzes, that leaves the middle of the field open underneath, and we saw a couple big plays happen because of that, and it puts more pressure on your cornerbacks to go one-on-one single coverage against Atlanta's wide receivers. And that's where we're seeing a lot of breakdowns because they're having a hard time. They don't match up well with speed receivers. And all 3 games, whether it's Deshaun Jackson, whether it's that guy, Callaway, I think his name is. Yeah, Callaway for the Browns, or Ridley and Jones, speed receivers were killing them, okay? Speed receivers were eating them up. That's the problem right now. We have to get better. You've got to get better. You've got to get guys in there helping Cam Jordan. I think we're really waiting on Davenport to grow up because Okafor is not the player he was last year. He's not bad. Don't get me wrong.
He's still struggling to come back from that Achilles
and that bone injury too, that bone bruise. But he's not as explosive as he was the year before. I think Sheldon Rankins runs hot and cold. Losing, who was the guy with the heart problem? I just drew a blank on his name. Fairley. I kept wanting to say Ridley, and it wasn't Ridley. Losing Fairley is still hurting this team because we have nobody on the other side of Rankins who can push the pocket. We got guys who can play the run, but we don't have somebody who can really push that pocket inside. Davenport is getting there. It's too slow for us. We really needed him to come from the outset, doing like Khalil Mack. That's the kind of production we needed out of our first round draft pick, and we don't have the time for that. As a result, until he gets up to speed, we just don't have somebody who's going to take a lot of pressure off of Cam Jordan right now. When that happens,
I think that it's trending up a little bit though. We saw Cam got 2 or 3 Sunday.
Yeah. In fact, he's tied for the league lead.
And Davenport got his first.
Mm-hmm.
But I think something that'll help us moving forward based on what I've seen to this point, now I haven't like broke down the latest film available on them by any means, but based on what I saw a week or two ago out of the New York Giants, they're absolutely the worst offensive line in the league at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The Dallas Cowboys have what I would consider to be a mediocre defense at this point, and they sacked Eli 6 times in that game, I believe. That DeMarco, whatever his name is, plays defensive line for the Cowboys.
Oh, DeMarco Williams.
No,
DeMarco.
Lawrence.
Yes, Lawrence. That's it, Lawrence.
DeMarco Lawrence spent more time in the huddle than Eli Manning did for the Giants that night. He was in the backfield more than Saquon Barkley.
Yes.
So, and it all starts up front. If your defensive line is going to get pressure on that quarterback, then your secondary is going to have time to cover these guys. They have to make it uncomfortable. And I know he's like a deity in this area, but Eli, the game has passed Eli by quite a bit. I'm not going to say he's incompetent, but he is not the quarterback that is a 2-time Super Bowl MVP. He's not that guy anymore.
If you're playing from that bad of an offensive line, you're not going to be.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Because of the situation that he's in, he's not able to be. That's not a knock on Eli nearly so much as I said, the situation he's in. They still have Odell Beckham Jr., who's going to be a factor regardless. He's one of those guys you have to know where he is on the field at all times. You've got Sterling Shepard, who may or may not be a factor in the game. It just depends on what side of the bed he wakes up on that particular day. I think that there's a weakness there to exploit, to kind of, and in the NFL, it's a game of streaks. For a defense to completely turn things around, sometimes all it takes is just changing the narrative. The Saints secondary has been beat up for 3 consecutive weeks. On the top side of that, you have the fact that you're going to be hard pressed to find a more talented wide receiver core that you're going to go up against than what Tampa Bay and what Atlanta brought to bear against you. Now, mind you, I think that's nothing more than an excuse, because in this league, everybody's good. Mm-hmm. You have to do what you have to do to shut them down. You don't get a mulligan or a pass because you got a weak secondary and they have the hottest receiving core in the league. That don't really matter. All that matters is wins, and you got to do what you got to do to win a game. And Sunday, we got that win. Now, I told our friend Gene Thomas from the Buck What You Heard podcast, I talked to him the other day, and I told him, I have never been in a situation being 2-1 and being this concerned before. So there's definitely issues to be concerned. But on the other side of the coin, can we stop a minute and acknowledge the 39-year-old man, Drew effing Brees, putting the spin move on the guy? That guy, how would you like to have been that Atlanta Falcons defender to have to go to meetings on Monday morning?
Well, I did see that on Twitter. It's not to me. It's not the same thing because of the level of the game. But they said you just made up for all the Atlanta trolling over Marcus Williams missing a tackle, in the Minnesota game, because you had 2 guys just basically roll off of a 39-year-old quarterback who put a move on him, and and got in the end zone. So I don't go that far, but it was. I tell you what, I was like, run, run! Oh God, no, no! Oh yeah, he got it, that kind of thing. 'Cause, two guys colliding on your quarterback, and you're like, oh no, no, no! I don't want to see that. But it is Drew Brees. So, and when Alvin Kamara was denied a touchdown, and they put it on the 1.5 foot line, I'm like, Brees is going over the top, and he's going to extend that ball. He's done it so many times, and he's going to get over just high enough just to do, that little thing, just enough so the officials see it. You knew they were going to score again. It's going to happen. There's nothing you can do to stop it. It's going to happen. To me, the turning point in that overtime game was the third and long that Kamara picked up, and they had no replay really to show whether or not he actually got the first down, because both of them were from an angle, not straight on the line. So from one angle, it looks like he was short, and the other angle looks clearly like he's got it. It
Thank
was
God they called it a first down on the field.
Yeah, and that was the thing. To me, I saw no indication from either angle to overturn the call. Whatever the call was, that's what they were going to make. So, yeah, that was great. And I have no doubt if they would have ruled Kamara short, Saints were going for it. They were going to go for it no matter what. They weren't kicking a field goal. That close, you would have saw Brees go over the top, or once again, Taysom Hill come out there and do something. They weren't. It wasn't going to be. I mean, did you see? I'm sorry. Did you see when they put Taysom Hill on that fourth down play or third down play? I think it was third down.
Third and two.
Third and two, and you can see the coach just go on to a sprint to try and get to the official to call timeout, and he didn't get it in time. And Taysom Hill picked it up. But you could see him from the sideline just haul butt to try and get there. So the game is on replay on NFL Network right now. It'll be on again at 11 o'clock Central Time tonight. I think 11. Might be 10:30. Just check your guide. But, watching it again, if you can stomach P.J. Williams getting torched, it's really a fun game to watch, knowing the outcome now, because the Saints just coming back, beginning with that block punt, it's just so much fun to see the Saints just do to the Falcons what we were screaming that the Falcons were doing to us. A lot of people who weren't Saints fans, I think, really enjoyed that football game. It was a good back and forth, typical rivalry game. I predicted a game that was going to be a 3-point difference, and it ended up being a 6-point difference. So,
I want to say it was a great game, and everybody on Sports Talk Radio, they're talking about, what a white knuckle, and I'm like, dude, man, any game that I have to take blood pressure medication in the midst of, no, I don't need this kind of drama. Let's go in there. Let Drew pass for that 400 yards in the first half instead of the second half, so that we can kind of coast and I can get my breathing back under control normally. I'm just, man, please, not this week.
I know. My wife's the same way. She likes the Saints Giants 2011 kind of ball games. The Saints Cowboys from 2006. Those are her kind of games. Those are great games to enjoy.
Yeah.
Games where the Saints score at will and the opposing team is struggling to get a first down. That's what she enjoys watching, because, she can handle that stuff.
Yeah. The Saints Patriots 2009.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which happens to be playing on my TV screen in the studio as we speak. And then there's Scott Fujita telling Peyton that he can eat Oreos faster than him.
What are you watching?
The highlight reel from 2009.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know if I ever told you this story or not. This goes back a little ways. This was from 2009, 2010. I want to say it's probably 2010. My daughter is playing flag football for St. Edwards. It's a girls' team, okay, and they make her a quarterback because she could actually knew how to throw a football. So, and the boys' flag football team, which is her same age group, so it's her classmates, her friends, they went undefeated. Now, the girls' season started after the boys. So the boys went undefeated. So for a practice one day, and of course, dads are officiating this game. Um, the the boys are going to take on the girls. Okay, they're going to show up because the girls are, talking about how they could beat the boys. So the boys want to play the girls now. Now, keep in mind, there were two girls in this team, on Allison's team, who can run like the wind, or at the time could run like the wind. Nobody could catch these girls. They were just fast. They were like track girls, okay? So Allison takes a snap. Now, keep in mind, she has watched this Saints New England game about 100 times by now because I had the DVD. So she's watching this game over and over and over again. So here come two of her male friends. They're going to blitz her, okay? She slides. They come in hard on the blitz to go pull a flag. She steps up into the pocket, pump fakes, then throws the ball to one of the girls into the end zone for a touchdown. And meanwhile, the two boys that came in hard ran so hard they hit each other and bounced off each other when Allison stepped up into the pocket. And both of them hit each other. And, one guy got his glasses knocked off. The other guy's got like his bell rung and everything else, And the dads are all like, oh, Allison got you, that kind of thing. And they really just collided into each other. Really embarrassing. And Allison comes and tells me after the game, she says, yeah, Dad, I looked up the safety, my pump fake, and I threw to the corner of the end zone. So I'm like, all right, Allison, the safety over there is somebody in her class. I'm not going to name the person. That's not Ronnie Lott back there, that kind of thing. But it was still funny, Dad, I looked up the safety and I threw the ball in the end zone for a touchdown kind of thing. So it was a classic moment. It really was. She had a lot of fun that year.
Yes,
she really did.
Want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Just us tonight.
Yeah. Did we cover everything already?
Yes.
Wow. That's what
we seamlessly transitioned between all subjects so flawlessly that we didn't realize we were doing it.
No, that's good. Here, let me just say a couple, because you really talked more about the Giants than I did. I saw a little bit of that Giants. Who'd they beat? Not Tennessee.
Cowboys.
No. The Cowboys got humiliated by the Seahawks. No, they actually won a game because they were 0-2 going into that game.
Hang on, I can tell you.
Yeah, so can I.
Today, yesterday, Sunday.
They
Houston.
Okay, the Texans. That's right, the Texans. Okay, they beat the Texans. All right. It's going to be a shootout again. Every time we played the Giants, going back to 2009, it's been a shootout kind of game. I take that back. What was it? 2014 or 2015 was the year of the block field. Was it 2016? It can't be 2016. The block. No, it was 20. Yeah, it was 2016. The block field goal. That was the lowest scoring game. Yeah, so it was 2016. That was the block. But 2015 was the shootout. 52. That's when Drew Brees set the record. 52-49 through the 7 touchdown passes. It's going to be another shootout because the Saints defensive backs are not going to be able to keep up with O.J. Beckham and Sterling Shepard, and I don't even remember who the third guy is anymore. But it's without Patrick Robinson there, you're going to see a lot of P.J. Williams in there as a nickel back, and he'll be there to remind you why he shouldn't be out on the field. You're going to see Crawley struggling, because they're going to try and put Beckham on him. They're not going to let Lattimore shut him down, and so it's going to be imperative that the Saints defensive front four, because if you can rush 4 and drop 7, if that front 4 can get pressure on Eli and hit him, because if they can do that, then we've neutralized and we've helped our secondary. But I don't know if they can be able to do that. I have to. That's the big matchup. Can our front 4 dominate the Cowboys' front 5? Not Cowboys. I mean the Giants' front 5. If they can't do that, if Allen's got to start blitzing again, then we got a problem. And Barkley is a better running back than any of the running backs we faced so far this year.
True.
So, you've got to once again shut down that run. Now, I think we're better against the run now than we have been in a while. And I think Stallworth is part of that. Having Taylor Stallworth out there has helped that. But if Eli can run the ball and he has time to throw, he's going to pick us apart, and it's going to be up to Drew Brees playing perfect football again to match him score for score. So that's the challenge. That's the challenge this week.
And see, that's the thing that makes me the most nervous, because sooner, as we've seen over and over and over in years past, those 7 and 9 seasons, what happened was, as long as we were able to keep pace with someone and continue to score points and just turn it into a track meet that we could keep pace with them, we always managed to win, until we came across the teams that we weren't able to do that on. And
I don't think the Giants have a good enough defense to do that to us.
I don't either. I don't. They have one, maybe 2 players on the defensive front, and they have one really good linebacker. And outside of that, their secondary, they didn't impress me at all. They've got Eli Apple, but just like us with Marshawn Lattimore, if you've got one cover corner, then you just will not have any, because there's always ways. Any halfway decent offensive coordinator, play caller, is going to be able to isolate a standout cover corner.
I like Michael Thomas's matched up against any cornerback in the league right now.
Absolutely.
I don't care who it is. I think he can handle him.
Yes.
I think now we have to once again win the turnover battle, commit no turnovers. We have to start getting turnovers. That's one thing I'm looking for. This is the game where we need to get some fumbles and some interceptions. We have one takeaway in 3 games.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
The blocked punt, is that considered a takeaway?
I don't even know. I don't think it is.
Someone asked me that, and I didn't know how to respond to it. I thought it was, because it's a change of possession.
Yeah, you're stealing in possession,
But technically, we have the one Marcus Williams interception versus Cleveland, and that's it.
No, it doesn't. I just looked it up. It says, does a block punt count as a turnover? No, it's a 4th down play. So unless they get a first down, it's the other team's ball anyway. It counts as a block punt, but it's not a turnover though. So it's not a takeaway.
That sucks.
I didn't think it was. Well, if you think about it, it makes sense too, because it's a turnover. I mean, it's turnover on downs. It's like going for it on 4th down and you're not picking it up. it's just a momentum changer because you're now in great field position. Because when you block the punt, you're actually picking up more positive yardage because chances are you've knocked that ball off of the punter's foot and you've got it as far back as the punter was, as opposed to somebody going for it in fourth down and you tackle them at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage. So,
do you know anything about? Well, I know we signed somebody today. I don't remember
yeah,
the guy's name.
Yeah, we signed a defensive back out of Oregon who was on somebody's practice squad, maybe.
No, he was not on a practice squad.
Oh, he wasn't. So he was on the street.
Yeah, and we were supposed to have workout with Sterling Moore, and I think we have also scheduled a workout with David Amerson. Is there any kind of updates on any of that as we speak?
I'm looking to see. Let's see. I don't have my phone with me, so I'm not looking at David Amerson to visit the Saints, but doesn't. He worked out for Green Bay today.
Yeah.
But
and Sterling Moore worked out with Chicago yesterday
mm-hmm.
and was supposed to work out with us today.
Right.
But I haven't heard any kind of update through the course of the day today.
Yeah.
The last thing that I heard was that Sterling Moore was supposed to be at the facility this morning for workout.
Mm-hmm. And they may not sign him at all. Let's see. The team worked out Sterling Moore, Dexter McDougal, Robert Nelson, and Josh Robbins on Tuesday. And Amerson was cut by the Chiefs out of training camp, and he's been with the Redskins and the Raiders. So, but I'll be honest with you, you're not going to find a stud defensive back on the street right now. You're just not.
No.
It's just not going to happen because defensive backs are a rarity. Like you said in the beginning of the show, the Rams are looking for some now because they've got two of them out. Both their starters are out. And I think Talib is going to be out for a while too.
Yeah, he had ankle surgery today or yesterday.
Yeah, so he's going to be out for a while. Marcus Williams has a calf injury, so
yeah,
this is what happens. I mean, injuries happen. It's thin. Look at the Falcons who we played this week. They're grabbing people off the street too.
Both of their starting safeties are done for the season now.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just you're going to find different versions of PJ Williams out there. That's pretty much what you're going to find.
Oh my dear God!
I'm just saying. Who are you going to get? Devontae Harris? I mean, I know he's on injury reserve with the Bucs, but I mean,
oh no,
that's what you got out there. You're not going to find.
I've made the comment in one of our chats today. I would take P-Rob in a boot over PJ in cleats.
Yeah. Well, the problem is PJ Williams is really a guy who covers the nickel. He needs help over the top, but he's physical enough to cover the inside guys. Where he's got some safety. He's dealing with the third best receiver, not a speed guy, somebody where it's his technique is enough to provide good coverage. He's not an outside cornerback. He isn't that good. But that's why, like I said in one of the chats, I mean, this is why the Saints drafted two cornerbacks. This is why the Saints have been bringing in cornerbacks. It's
this point in time when I regret that we let Jamerson go. I regret that we waived Mollett, who is now
both of them with the Colts. Both of them with the Colts now.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if they're starting or they're playing or what, but both of them are in the Colts team right now. So I mean, and I'll be honest with you, if we had Marlette and we had Jamerson on the team, and they were playing, and they're probably gonna get toasted like these guys were. We'd be screaming to get rid of those guys too. I mean, it's just
Well, I believe was it 2 seasons ago when we had kind of the back and forth between Sterling Moore and BJ Webb,
mm-hmm.
or excuse me, BW Webb,
BW Webb, yeah.
and
BJ's with the Bear.
They didn't do. It wasn't the secondary that we had a year ago, but I mean, they did an effective job.
Well, they didn't let guys get behind them, but they were giving up stuff underneath all day long. And that's what Moore is going to do. Sterling Moore is going to let you catch balls in front of him all day because he's going to be terrified of somebody getting behind him for the big play. So you're not going to give up the explosive play. You're just going to give up chunks of yardage as the team marches down the field. It's those, you get a sack, you stop the running back for a 3-yard loss. So now it's 3rd and 15, and then the quarterback completes an 18-yard pass in front of Sterling Moore. That's what you get. It's a different kind of frustration. You're not giving up the 45 or 75-yard touchdown pass. You're giving up chunks of yardage because Sterling Moore cannot play somebody man-to-man. He's going to keep everything in front of him and try and make that tackle. So
that's what I've never been able to make. I've never been able to make people understand. You can give up one 75-yard touchdown pass.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. But really and truly, when you give up 3 back-to-back 25-yard passes for a touchdown, it's the same thing. 6 points.
It's death by 1,000 paper cuts. It's teams converting 50% or better on 3rd down conversion against you. And that's the problem. It's not just Crawley and PJ Williams. It's the inability of the defensive line to get consistent pressure. They're getting pressure at times, but they're not getting it when they need it the most consistently.
Yeah.
You're not getting off the field.
I still go back to it made me feel much better when you gave your analysis earlier, because someone had asked me what's wrong with the Saints defense, and I told them, I said, basically, in a nutshell, the answer to that is they haven't changed what they were doing a year ago. And every team in the league that they have to play, every offensive coordinator has tape on all the things that Lattimore and Crawley did a year ago that worked and everything that didn't work. They found holes in these games, very specifically planned game plans, and very effectively very efficiently played, executed. That's the word I was looking for. Very efficiently executed these game plans on Sunday.
I mean, Tampa came out with a great game plan, and and the Saints showed they couldn't handle it. And if you can't handle something in the NFL, you're going to get something. You're going to get it every week. And what they couldn't handle was speed guys attacking the secondary. That's what we can't handle right now. We cannot handle speed guys going vertical go routes against our defensive backs one-on-one. And they wait until Dennis Allen is trying to get some pressure by blitzing, and that's when they're sending those guys on takeoff routes, or they're sending those guys isolated on slant routes, or whatever it takes to get that one-on-one matchup. And until we show we can stop that, and the way you stop that is, and we did a little bit of it against Atlanta, we kind of lose that because Atlanta was able to move the ball. But, you look at the 3rd down conversions, it wasn't very good for Atlanta. But when we were able to force Matt Ryan to hold on to that ball long enough for our pressure to get to him. And then he was getting coverage sacks, and they were getting behind the down and distance. Now we are dictating to them what they're going to see. But if they're getting ahead of us on the down and distance in the first and second down, and they're getting second and short, third and short, or third and 5, or something that's very makeable for a high-powered offense, that's when we have problems, So,
but I think that it's looking up for this Sunday, because I like the way that we match up against the Giants.
I think we match up well against them too. Outside of the speed threats at receiver, I think our defensive line matches up well against Eli's offensive line. I think this is a game where Davenport can have an impact. I'd like to see him get 30-plus snaps this weekend. I don't know if he will, but I'd like for him to get it.
We need to use that Mike Tyson game plan where everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. We want to thank everybody for joining us tonight and invite you guys to come back every Tuesday night with us. We're comfortable, we're laid back, and we're for real. Thank Fan First Productions for sponsoring us once again. Invite you guys to subscribe to us on iTunes and on YouTube. Sunday, we play late game or noon game?
We play at 3:25 p.m. So, yeah, we play the late game. We're the America's game. I think we're on CBS. No, we're on Fox. Here's the thing. It's not like how it used to be. This is one thing people need to keep in mind. Because of the Thursday night games now.
Being on Fox.
Well, not just being on Fox, but even when it was on CBS, it kind of broke up that, all the NFC games are on Fox, all the AFC games are on CBS. It broke that kind of monopoly up. So sometimes they'll put an all NFC game on CBS, which I think is this weekend, because Fox has the Thursday night game, CBS gets the doubleheader game, and there's probably not enough AFC games to play in the afternoon, so they may get one. I'm just guessing. This thing doesn't tell me what network it's on. It just says New York NFC, 3:25 p.m., and Fox had a doubleheader last weekend. That's why I think we're on CBS, because Fox had the god-awful Seahawks and the Cowboys game on after the Saints game.
Yes, we are.
That was just horrible. Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. They should make people they should declare Cowboys games, I don't know, violating some form of Geneva Convention rule, because man, that's like waterboarding with I don't know, toilet water or something. It's just horrible. It's torture to watch crap like that. I mean, good God. I think I would have stood for the Titans Jaguars 9-6 snoozer over having to sit through the Cowboys, because they're so bad. They're so poorly coached, and they have no talent whatsoever. But that's them. I'm glad we don't have to deal with that shit.
Well, and on that note, anyway, once again, thank you guys for joining us tonight. Look forward to catching you guys right here next week on Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.
Same bat time, same bat channel. Good night, everybody. Thank y'all for putting up with us tonight.